Hi there and welcome to the Blender series on making a spider. So this is going to be a beginner tutorial, so I'm going to go fairly slow and get things sorted out so you can manage to use some of the tools for modelling. We're going to start off very simply by deleting this cube in the middle because a spider would not look great as a cube. So we're going to start off with a different object. So if we click on add and go to mesh, and we're going to start off with this UV sphere. Now I played around with this a little bit, so I'll just make screen cast keys on. Here we go. So I've started off with this this UV sphere. If you press the left mouse button on the tool when you start making the when you create any mesh, you can see here you can set some of the options. So I want to have a size of 12 segments, and I think the best one was 6 rings. Now we're going to start with this kind of shape before we model it, and we're going to pull the legs out of each of these little faces. So we should have 4 on one side and 4 on the other, and then we can have some space at the front and the back. So now that we've done that, we just need to move into the modeling mode. So this is the layout. This is just for organizing your meshes into position. You can do a lot in here by changing the modes, but we're just going to use these tabs up the top here so we can work our way through as we make the model. So this is the layout. We get our objects in place, and then this is where we click on modeling. For some reason my screencast keys keep switching off every time I do it, but we'll go with that. So we have the shape that we want, and what we're going to do is start to pull these legs out. Now I think what I'm going to do just to start with is just click on the scale tool over the left hand side here, and just click on the blue one, the Z, and just drag it down a little bit so it's a bit slightly less tall, and we're going to have it facing just in this direction. So the red axis is the X, and we're going to make the legs come out over this side. So for anyone who hasn't done much modelling before, now we're in this mode here. You've got the vertices, the edges, and the faces, and you can see on the top left hand side you can select between vertices, edges, and faces, and obviously you can click and select on any of the ones that you choose. I have the scale tool still enabled, but if it gets in the way, you can just click back on the select tool over here and get it out of the way. But you have the select, the move, rotate, and scale down here, just like when we do objects in our previous tutorial. Now all we have to do is we start using these tools to pull these legs out. And I'm going to use this face here. I'm going to pull the leg out that way. Before I do that, I only want to model one side, and I don't want to model the other side because I'm lazy. So we need to get rid of all the vertices and add in the mirror modifier. Now if we click on when we go straight into modeling, it automatically puts up the modifiers so you can set them up. So we have the spanner tool here, which is the modifiers. If it's set on something else right now, click on the spanner, so you go to modifiers, and we're going to set up the mirror modifier. Before we do that, we're going to just delete all of this side so that we can only model on one side. The way to do that is we're going to select all the vertices on that side and delete them. Now I could go down and click on every single one with Control held down, but that would be slow. We're going to use the box select, and you notice here if I click on box select, it's actually only chosen the ones that were at the front that it could see. So we need to solve that problem. So we're just going to click on the top right here. Oh, get rid of that box. The top right here, which is the X-ray mode. So if you click on X-ray, you get to kind of see through the thing. The added bonus of that is if we tap B for the box select, we can select all of the vertices down the entire one side. So we have all of those selected, and we're just going to press X to delete, and then choose vertices, and that gets rid of half of the mesh. So we got the whole one half missing. That allows us now to add that mirror modifier in. So I'm going to click on add modifier and then click on mirror, and that should mirror everything on one side to the other. Now one little thing that you want to do is to set clipping on. So if you set clipping on, what that means is if you try and move one of these vertices, if I try and move it, you'll see it's stuck in the middle, and if you were to try and move a vertex towards that, it would clip them together, so it wouldn't make them join, wouldn't let them go on the wrong side. without clipping on. What sometimes happens is you can have a vertex that overlaps, and as you can see, it just looks weird. So switch clipping on so that nothing can cross the halfway, and then we should have a pretty solid base to start our spider. So I'm going to do one of the legs, and then I'm going to leave you to practice with the other ones, because it's pretty much exactly the same process. We have I'm going to go into face select up here. So I've got vertices, edges, and faces. I'm going to get rid of X-ray so I can just see the face that I want to work on. And what we're going to do is I'm going to click this face to select it. So left click to select. And then we're going to just extrude them out and drag them around and put some joints in. So the process is exactly the same for all the legs, and it's up to you to make it look good. So the extrude tool over here is the top one in here in the tools. You'll see a little plus that appears when you do that, and you can click and drag and it'll pull that out. The shortcut key, and you're going to use this a lot, these tools are all here, and it's great that Blender 2.8 has them, but you do need to kind of learn the shortcuts as you get around to it. The shortcut key for that is E. So if I was to go back with Control Z, select that face and tap E, I would get exactly the same thing. So you can use this if you want, or you can use the E. The reason I showed you the shortcut is because what we're going to do is once we've done this, we need to rotate it a little bit. So if I click on rotate, you'll see that it's not facing straight. So if I orbit around this rotate, if I was to rotate it, it's going to go all wonky if I try and rotate it using these axes. And that's when we come to the difference between global, world, and normal. So if you notice the direction that this is, it's world axes. So the red axis that runs out here has got a red axis around here, the green one here has got a green one here. So if you want to rotate around any of the axes, this is perfect. But up here in the very center of the top, if you click on global, you can change to local, and that's local to the object. So if I'd rotated this object, this would be different. And you can also change to normal. And normal is the relative to the face that you have selected, or the edge that you have selected. So because this face sort of points out this way, you'll see that now the axes are relative to that particular face, and that's perfect. That's exactly what I want. So I'm going to leave that on normal, and I'm just going to rotate this around a little bit because we want this leg to kind of start going down. And what I'm going to do is put in a little joint so I can see where it is. So if I tap E, which is the extrude again, and I just go out a little bit, and then tap S, I can go up a little bit. So what that's doing is it's making a little bump around that point there, and then I'm going to tap E again and just go out a little bit, and then click, and then tap S and go smaller. So that's the first section of the leg, and this is going to be the second section. So once again, it's the same pattern. I'm going to tap E. I'm going to scale it down so that I want the leg to get a bit smaller, and then I'm going to tap E, and then S to make it bigger, and then E again, and then S to make it smaller, and that gives me my second. Oh, actually, let's go back. Let's Control Z, because what we forgot to do was just rotate this around a little bit. So I'm going to rotate it so it points further down first, and then do that same thing. So E, and then S to make it slightly bigger, so we get that slight bump. Tap E, and tap S to make it smaller, and then I'm going to go out further with the leg. So yeah, I'm fairly happy with that one. If you need to move it a little bit, remember we can still go back to this move tool, and because we're set on normal, we can actually move it relative to the face, so it'll be fine just like that. So I'm going to do one more rotation. I hit the dot key here, the numpad dot, and that will zoom and center to where we are right now. So I'm going to scale it down just a touch. I'm going to rotate it, so switch back to the rotate tool, just rotate it a bit more, and then I'm going to tap E, scale it up just a touch, tap E, scale it down a wee bit more, and then tap E for the last bit. And just to make this nice and pointy, I'm just going to scale it quite far, not all the way in. So you'll see here as I orbit around, it's not entirely closed up. We want to try and keep it as quads wherever possible so we don't join up. So that's looking not bad. The spider itself, we're gonna change it just a little bit. So if you bear with me, I'm going to leave you and do the other legs, but by adding another modifier, what we're going to do at the end when we're finished is we're going to add another modifier called subdivision surface, and what that does is you'll see that it smooths out these bumps, so you start getting a lot nicer look to them. Without the subdivision surface modifier, which was this one down here, without this subdivision surface modifier it looks really bad, but the subdivision surface just smooths them out, and for organic objects it works really, really well. So it might look all roboty and really low poly right now and not look that great, but with the subdivision it will look okay, and it doesn't add too many vertices to it. So that's the basics of it. I'm going to just do the rest of the four legs using exactly the same process, and then we'll work on the fangs. So I'm going to kind of pause this and just do this in high speed. Alright, welcome back. You'd have finished off those legs now. Now, the last bit that we're going to do, we might do the fangs right now. So if you click on the this face here, you'll see if we try and extrude out, what happens is we kind of gets joined in the middle, and there's a couple ways to fix this. Firstly, you can switch clipping off inside the modifiers and then extrude, and you'll see it extrudes separately. Or we can do an inset for this particular face. And this is quite good if you do an inset, because it means that you've got it'll keep things separate and it will give you a smaller face to work with for the fangs. So I think that's what we're going to go with. So if you click on the inset tool, which is this one over here, we have this face selected, and all you do is you click and you drag. And if you click and drag and push it in, you'll see that the face gets basically extruded, but it gets left in the same plane, so it's exactly in the same line. So that face has been inset. If you click again, you'll inset again, unfortunately, so we don't want that. But we can scale this face that is selected to make it bigger or smaller. And what we're going to do now is just use exactly the same method that we used before, but we're going to try and curve it a little bit more, so we'll do a few more extrusions. So just going to hit the dot key on the number pad so I can zoom in center to this, and I'm going to tap E to pull out, and then with the rotate tool engaged again, we've still got this set to normal. We can turn this around a little bit, and what I might also do is just move it down a bit so that it starts to come down quite early rather than going too far up. And then we continue the process. So I'm going to leave that one the size it is and just pull this one out, just rotate it round, take a little look at this. I might move it down just a bit and definitely scale it down just a bit. So once again, tap E to extrude. I'm going to just move that down, just click on the rotate around the normal, and just scale that down, and then E again. You can see that the fangs are starting to come out now. I'm going to scale that down a little bit, just rotate it a little bit more, and one more time, and really start to get sharp now, and rotate one more, and then E, and then really sharp towards the end. So this looks pretty scary. You wouldn't want to bump into this in the middle of the night. What I think it needs to make it look even more alien is some eyes. Now we could add them just from texture, but I'd actually think that a little bit of geometry in here is going to be good. And you'll notice here that we've not really got, if we just have this one face here, we're only going to get the one eye, and we want more than that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the loop cut and slide tool. So this is the loop cut right here. If you click on loop cut, you'll see that you hover over any of the edges and it allows you to cut around that particular edge. Now it's very handy for this situation, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and make a couple of small eyes down this bottom here. So I'm going to choose an edge here, just click, and you'll notice that it created the cut for me. I'm also going to try and do a cut here, and you'll see that it loop cuts around here. Now the shortcut for that is Control R. If you do Control R, you are able to use exactly the same shortcut that we did before. So the loop cut allows you to do that. So I'm just going to get this loop cut here, so I'm going to pick edge select, pick that edge, and pick this one here. So I've got the extra geometry that I need. Now what I'm going to do is switch off the loop cut, go back to the extrude, and we're going to just try and create the four, maybe some eyes in here. So if I have two here, then they'll be mirrored on the other side as well. So yeah, I'm going to pick this one face right here, back on face select, pick this face here just to show you how it's done, extrude out, and then just scale it in a little bit, and then extrude out, and then scale it in. Now it may look like it's not that cool right now, but when we, as I mentioned before, when we put the subdivision surface, it's going to look great. So this time I'm going to make sure untick clipping for this one, so that it extrudes just the individual face. Tap S to push it in, tap E and tap S. So make them quite small. So we've got these square polygon-ish looking eyes, and I think I'm just going to leave it at the 4 rather than trying to make another one. I could maybe make a big eye out here or a big eye out here, but I'll leave that up to you to see how it looks like. As I mentioned before, I won't remember to put clipping back on, but as I mentioned before, it looks all low polygon right now, but all you need to do is add in the subdivision surface modifier, and that smooths things out, and you get some geometry in here to raise those eyes up. So that's the basics of modelling this 3D spider. I'm just going to look at it inside of object mode right now, and just click anywhere. So you see that the model actually doesn't look too bad. This could maybe do with being a little bit sharper, but the legs are pretty good. And yeah, that's the tutorial. That's the first part of the tutorial anyway on making this spider and getting it into Unity. Cheers.